Hello and welcome to KRSC Beyond the Ordinary Webcast Radio, where we follow the money and we'll see where it goes. Right here with your host, Nancy Lena, or where it all went, maybe.
And with Plain Talk.
Plain Talk.
Yeah. Because we have George Ure, MBA, and yes, we'll talk to him about collaborating with Cliff on the bots, but first we'll hear a little bit more about George. Although he did warn us that his bio, just the first page, would take more than this hour, so we'll see how far we get. Hi, George.
Hello. Well, where should I start?
Wherever you wish. This is your show.
At the beginning, I was born in Seattle. How's that?
You were?
Well, of course, Swedish Hospital.
Okay.
The stork had run out of energy on an overpull flight, and I was dropped there.
All right.
And that was back in about 1940 something. So I'm nearly a geezer. I'm like, within months of turning 60.
Oh, you're a young'un.
Oh no, I'm a geese. Come on.
Then what am I, George?
A beautiful, voluptuous, charming young lady.
Okay, you're
all
making
right.
points
I'll
now.
go with that.
I mean, come on. The real short bio. Started off as a broadcast engineer. Worked at KOL and KYAC, the R&B station up in the Kirkland area. From there, became news director of KOL and went to work as a newscaster in 1970, news director in 73, stayed through the call letter change to KMPS, and left KMPS on June 1st of 1983, senior vice president of Cayman Airways, the national flag airline of the Cayman Islands, for a couple of years, then worked on a project called Softcast, which was the first ever really massively promoted broadcast of computer data over the main channel of radio stations. From there, did a broadcasting college for about 5 years, turnaround for a Bellevue company that made HF single sideband radio for marine and paramilitary use. And then, then I did battery instrumentation, lived on my sailboat for about 10 years, and went back into higher education management. One thing led to another, and there I was in the summer of 2001 in San Francisco doing a turnaround for a small private college in the South Bay. And at the same time, writing a column about long-wave economics on this relatively new thing called the Internet. And I had a website called urbansurvival.com, and it's at that point that I started getting an email exchange going with a fellow named Cliff, and that was in advance of 2001's big event in September. And we had started corresponding in about June or so of that year. And by July, and you can still find it on my website, in July of 2001, I put a paper up on my website that referred to something Cliff had written called Screwy Theory 153. And the idea of it was that somebody could predict the future rather accurately if you were to go out and surveil the Internet. And look at just everyday conversation on the Internet, and distill that down to its both its emotional weight and its timeliness in the future. And from that you could infer what was going to occur before the future actually got here. So in the summer of 2001, I was writing a fair bit on my website about not run from the hill, or run for the hills, the sky is falling, but a fair amount of conversation about what is this tipping point that is coming in the early fall of 2001 that is showing up in this linguistic shift science that this software guy in the Silicon Forest up in the Northwest has come up with.
Well, keep going.
Yeah,
Oh, no. You got to give me a question. I mean, otherwise I could do a 1-hour monologue.
Well, we can arrange that. Remember what I told you before we went on the air, that if we were to, because I have spent a lot of time on your website, and a lot of the financial stuff befuddles me, but you make a lot of it very clear for me, which is rather astounding.
Well, it's really simple. Economics, I became really fascinated with economics when I went back to school. I had managed to be a news director of a major market radio station for 13 years without a college degree. And I was invited to, taught at University of Washington communications internship for a number of years, and did a little guest speaking here and there, and ended up on the publications committee for the AP Broadcast Association and so forth. And in fact, the late Wick Temple, who was at the time the bureau chief of the AP Bureau in Seattle, up across from the Seattle Times, we invented the AP radio network on a cocktail napkin with a guy named Steve Weiner at 13 coins back in the day. Wick subsequently went on to become the worldwide general manager of the AP, lived back in New York, and we kept in touch. He had family out in, I want to say, Whidbey Island area. And we didn't keep in close touch, but for what it's worth, great things have happened in Seattle. Microsoft, the AP radio network on a cocktail napkin, the first ever broadcast of computer data that we did when I was at KMPS back in, that was late 82, early 83, with a company called Digital Systems International, which was previously called Microperipheral, and subsequently went through a couple of corporate iterations, and it's now Avaya, or I guess Avaya was taken public, but it used to be on the NYSE. And among my life accomplishments, I'm the first guy ever to say, "Please hold, I have an important call for this number." So if you ever don't pay your credit card, could be me. So anyway, that's like me in a nutshell, and how Cliff and I hooked up. And Cliff is really the brains of the operation. I'm just the economics wag, and as I say, I've been fascinated with how much gobbledygook has been put into economics, inferring amazing complex rules and relationships that may or may not really hold water.
Well, yes, I started there that before we came on the air, I said, if from what I have read about you, and listeners have already communicated to us that they are faithful readers of your monthly thing, which people can subscribe to, by the way, and you still have that website, urbansurvival.com, and Peoplenomics, Peoplenomics, yes, .com, which is very cool. But I said that if we were to get a State of the Union economy from you, at least we would get some straight talk instead of the bullshit we get.
Well, yeah, there is that problem. When most people talk about the economy, they're really trying to be cover all possible bases. Most financial planners, not all, but a good number of financial planners will try to walk a line between doing what's right for somebody's portfolio and what makes them some money. You can find them if you look, though. There's a class of financial planner that will pay, you literally just pay them a couple of $100 an hour and you buy their brain. And they'll generally give you straight scoop because they're not going to put you into a low mutual fund or things like that. But for the most part, the financial industry has been a bunch of pirates, and they pirate people's life savings. And I've had this really different view about how to win the great game of life financially that evolved from my studies in school and being really active in what used to be an academic discussion group, which was hosted by the University of Colorado's Center for a Sustainable Future. And the focus of that discussion was what's really going on with the economy? What's the long-range direction of it? And unfortunately, the long-range direction of the economy is not usually what everybody is doing. So I set off on this track for myself in about 1987 or so, of trying to get to a point in life where I had absolutely no bills, a little bit of money put away, and I could be as much as possible a dropout from the system. And when I say a dropout from the system, what I mean by that is I don't need very much to survive. Most people, when you look at their personal balance sheet, I've got a friend, I call him the bond dude, a very successful investor, in fact, one of the inventors of some of these financial instruments that are now in the process of blowing up. And we were talking about lifestyles a few weeks back, and he said, I'd love to be able to do what you do, but I've got a huge nut financially that I've got to hit, and it's well into six figures. And I'm thinking to myself, bond dude, you don't really need all that stuff. People don't need nearly as much money as they think they need if they simplify their life so that they scale down their requirements. You can still, today, in this part of East Texas, find a suitable place to live with a couple of acres of ground and so forth for under $130,000. And that's not going to be a big place. It'll probably be a 3 or 4 bedroom mobile home on 5 acres kind of a thing. But if you've got that and you can get that paid for free and clear, all of a sudden you don't really need much money to live. And most people get caught up in